Alright, sorry. Hello, and welcome to the AfterParty, conversations with SpyParty players. Today I'm joined by fr3ak2.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. What about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Just
Good, good.
playing some Spy Party. Yep.
Awesome. Alright, now, so you asked to be on the show, which is great. And you also had a really interesting topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, I really think it's well, obviously, if you're watching this, you probably played podcast a few times. And I think it's really interesting the similarities that there are to poker in Spy Party.
Hmm. So,
I think it's.
yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I guess. Sorry. Go on, sir.
Okay. So that was an interesting topic. We're going to talk about that. For a while, we did a thing where I'd get the interviewee to explain what Spy Party was, thinking, oh, maybe we'd have people listening to the podcast who haven't played the game. But it seems like the people who listen to the show are people who play Spy Party. So instead, what I'm going to get you to do is try and explain what are the rules of poker, since that's our game of comparison for
Okay,
today.
poker. Okay, so poker. I'm gonna be using Texas Hold'em as the example.
Hmm.
It is basically like poker, but instead of getting 5 cards, you're only giving 2 cards, and they're called your whole cards. You're only allowed to use two of your. You have to use both of your whole cards in order to make a full hand. The dealer will lay out 5 cards, the flop, which is the first three, the turn, which is the next card, and then the river, which is the final card. And after that, well, I guess I should say on each step of the on like the flop, each person needs to bet and try and basically dissuade the other person from putting more chips into the pot. Winner is basically decided who has more money at the end.
Right. So it's
And I think what's interesting to me about it is how the I think what's interesting about it is the not tells the what you have. I'm sorry, my brain's like not
yeah,
going
we're
anywhere.
already confusing the two games. This is great. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, they're very similar to me in my opinion. I mean, that's the reason why I like Spy Party. Whenever I first realized it was so much like Spy Party, and the reason why I felt like that was because of just you really have to play the player. You're not really playing the game. You know, you're playing against the other person you're playing and what you notice from what they have been doing.
Hmm. Very
And I
much
think
so.
that's really interesting with like the higher level players because they know a lot about the game. So it comes down to a lot more about um, what they're going to think the other player is doing instead of just trying to catch the mess up.
Hmm. Well, the interesting rhythm I find is that if you're playing a better person, generally, um, the first few rounds they could lose, but as the game progresses and they learn more about how you're playing, they'll do better because generally a better player is like thinking more about their opponent than a less experienced player. They're going more on like rote pattern.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. But yeah, so
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, Texas Hold'em, the variant you were talking about, sort of the like most popular, would you say, version of poker?
Oh yeah, that's the one. If you turn on the television and you want to watch poker, it's going to be Texas Hold'em.
Right. So, what's interesting to me about that version is that sort of seems like a variant of poker that developed to get more at the betting side of it. Like the after a while, people playing poker, someone developed that as like, oh, betting's the really interesting thing. So let's like push a version of poker towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's usually and no limits usually what people like to play because there's no structure to it. So it can be you can play more head games with people whenever there's less of a structure to what you're doing.
Okay, cool. So it like works better for casual environments.
Yeah.
Hmm. I wonder if
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, and strip poker is probably a bit too casual of a climate for most people of poker.
uh, never, never.
No?
I think strip poker is a great game. I think more people should play it.
Well, I was going to suggest you could have a variant of a strip spy party where if you lose a round, you have to take off an article of clothing, but if you win 2 rounds in a row, you get to put one back on.
Ah, nice. It's gonna be a lot of naked noobs out there.
It'll be terrible.
That's all
Yeah,
I have to say of that. It would be really bad.
yeah. But
I don't think anyone wants to see drawn strip.
maybe Dron would like to see that, but I don't know. But yeah, so like, what in your mind sort of got you thinking about the similarities between the two games? Was it something in one that reminded you of the other, or what was it?
It was really just like once I started playing with whenever I first started, I noticed that there was a lot of head games that we'd play with each other. Like I would, you'd say, "Hey, oh, you got me there," and they didn't. I don't know. And a lot of that's what you do with poker with your betting. You're trying to tell the other player what you want them to think you're thinking. And I think that in Spy Party, there's a lot of that with how, like, if you go to do an objective, you want to shed some suspicion, so you may go do a non-objective, and
Hmm.
I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. One way, when you brought up this subject, I started trying to think about this. Um, one way it feels analogous to me is as sniper, it kind of feels like you're putting little bets on different characters. You're like putting part of your putting part of your attention on one person, thinking, okay, I think they did this thing. It's like a small bet. You're sort of weighing the odds
Yeah,
of who is like more worth it to think of as a suspect.
yeah, absolutely. With like the highlights and lowlights,
Yeah,
so you're like saying, okay, I'm gonna double down that this guy is not a spy.
hmm. Yeah. Well, like I mean, I guess the main difference between the two is Spy Party is real time, which changes a lot of things. But you could think of it as being similar to poker in the sense that instead of um, instead of money being the resource you're partitioning out, it's time. And so deciding to think of someone as a suspect is like putting money in for a bet. It's you're committing time to looking at somebody.
Ah, yeah, that is very interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
I mean,
So it'd be like, no, go on.
no, no, you go on first. You're about to say so.
No, I just think that's really interesting way to look at it, using time as your money, basically. I don't know, because that's what it feels like as you're sitting there, like, okay, I know this is him, but do I really want to gamble that he's going to do something else that I can catch him on?
Hmm. Yeah, that of course there isn't any parallel then to adding time in poker, like sneaking money under the table without anyone looking.
Well, in some underground games, possibly. I mean,
Yeah,
but I
the
could see
lights flicker
that.
out for a second and someone's money is higher.
Right? Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Poker players like to try and keep a good count of what they have in front of them.
Hmm. Yeah,
That is their that is their bullets. That is their sniper bullets. Is just their chips.
Hmm. Yeah. So, have you played much poker before? Like, are you an experienced poker player? Would you say?
I played a lot back whenever. Um, yeah, I probably have. I say I'm relatively experienced. Never played for any high limits, but I used to play in a lot of tournaments back whenever you could play online for money. And I won one tournament on there that was like 480 people. I won it
Wow.
and won about like 600. And then I used to play a bunch of cash games just for fun and a few tournaments at the local casino up here. But so I used to study it like it was. I wanted to go pro real bad, but then it went. But then the online gambling went away, and it's no longer really affordable to do so.
Yeah. So, for people like myself who don't live in the States, what was that? What happened?
Basically, um, I don't know all the specifics, but basically, our government made it illegal for bets to be made over the internet, and using poker. Um, I can't remember. I almost want to look it up.
But it
You can still do it. There's a lot of people in the States still doing it, but you have to put money into like an offshore account.
okay. So it's for online poker. Like you can still play this in casinos.
Yeah, I can. You can still go to the local casino that we have here, which is funny. I mean, the whole thing's retarded. They took it offline, but if anyone lives in the States and played poker around the time, they'll definitely understand the frustration.
Okay, that sucks. Yeah, I heard I was reading an article that was somewhat about that. You know, Jason Rora is a game designer in California.
Yeah,
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 he
absolutely.
yeah he apparently really likes uh playing poker, and he wanted to make an online gambling game, but because of that restriction that he was talking about of like games of chance for money aren't allowed to be played online in the States or whatever, he had to make an online gambling game that was entirely skill based, which is interesting. So it basically
Yeah,
it couldn't be chance for it to be legal.
yeah, yeah. Basically,
And
it's
it's yeah.
interesting too because it. Go on.
Sorry, I keep doing
Sorry.
this where I think someone stopped talking and then I start talking, but they're just pausing to get onto their point. So I'm really sorry. You say your thing first.
I really didn't have a point. Sorry, I'm using the push to talk too, so this is cutting me off on myself. So if there is any weird pauses, I
Ah,
apologize.
no, no. I was just gonna say that uh, poker's interesting because the sort of the barrier between skill and chance kind of like it's not one or the other. It's weird. It like the skill is reliant on using chance.
Uh, I guess I don't really understand that.
Yeah, sorry, that's
Uh,
not that's not a correct way of putting it, perhaps. Like, um, uh, it it is a game of skill, but that skill is also reliant on how you interact with the chance nature of it.
okay.
Would you agree? Or I mean,
Makes a little
you're
bit.
the
That makes more
experienced poker
sense.
player, so you tell me what you think of that point.
Yeah, I'd say in poker the skill definitely outweighs the chance by far. You can go and do a game of poker and like especially no limit poker or something, and not even look at your cards if you're experienced enough, and just be able to know based off what your opponent's betting.
What? Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they somewhat hint at it in what's I can't remember the name of the movie now. There's a poker movie. Anyway, yeah, you don't need to know if you're experienced, that is. And some people can play looking at the cards, and some people use their cards basically, but use those basically as a backbone.
Okay, that's interesting. I hadn't considered that because perhaps I'm just like thinking my understanding of poker in relation to Spy Party because that's what I think about Spy Party is that you need you need to actually consider chance occurrences in your use of quote unquote skill to play the game.
Yeah, and that will happen too. I mean, I guess that would make sense. Like, let's say a turn came around and a card, it would totally change the person's hand who was using their skill to advantage, but then the chance of the turn coming up hurting the player, I guess. So
Right.
it, yeah, the more experienced player, the turn came out, that card probably gave the other person a flush. So that's going to totally affect how they go forward.
It's interesting. It's uh I guess one of the other differences between these two games is that uh like would you consider poker to have asymmetry in it?
Asymmetry, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how is poker asymmetrical like Spy Party?
I'll have to think about this. Sorry, now there's just dead air.
No, well, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you because I've been doing that for the last 2 minutes. Yeah, because that's one of the things that's I think appealing to a lot of people who play games about spy parties that it's a competitive game where uh, of the two players playing, each side is playing a different game, and that's sort of a like novel thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess in poker you're both playing the same game. You're not really playing two separate games.
But you,
I mean, there may be games within the games. I mean, there's tons of what you would call meta going
mm,
on.
I mean that's what bluffing is basically, right?
Yeah, meta is basically a word for bluffing in poker, I would say. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's something interesting to me is that when people start out, they sort of treat character selection as bluffing or like meta playing, but then as you get like more experienced, people sort of seem to ignore that.
Yeah. I like those high level players. Some of the decisions they make, I still am beyond understanding a lot of it.
Can you think of an example
Oh, an example.
of like when a high level player did
I
something
don't really.
and you were like, what? Why did they do that?
I don't understand their lowlights. I don't really understand a lot of the higher level like drawn or I think I've definitely seen who's the other guy who posts? Well, I've seen Drawn do it a lot. Oh, Casey. He does a lot of lowlights too, based on pathing. And I mean that comes from experience, but that's
Yeah,
something that I've still yet to really understand.
yeah, that's interesting that for high level spy party, there's a bit more um deterministic stuff of like if you see this small detail, it actually is a definitive tell that this person isn't a spy. And so
Yeah.
there's more certainty uh, from sniper play in that regards. Like just the angle at which people turn, especially if you're playing a newer player, that actually becomes an interesting uh, game game of like taking chance lowlights, thinking, I don't know if my opponent is experienced enough to make this exact of a turn, so I'm going to risk lowlighting them.
Yeah.
Mm. But then the problem is there's a lot of players who can't do these like very well, who like aren't knowledgeable about very minute turns, and so then high level players can get lots of accurate lowlights.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
Very interesting.
can you think of an analog to that in poker?
But analog to that in poker, something that a low level. Well, the thing with the lower level players in poker is, um, a lot of people don't know how to play. I mean, it's somewhat the same thing. So they make a lot of decisions. They'll get some good cards and they'll just keep betting, 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 even though the board says, "Hey, you're gonna lose," and the way the other person's betting at them is, "Hey, you're gonna lose." But they can keep betting. The river will come, and then the game will completely change because they'll hit their card, and then the more experienced player will lose, and that happens a lot.
Huh, that's interesting. So
Like that's the most scary thing usually for whenever, especially when I used to play cash games with friends, is whenever some random friend would come over and start playing, I just know that he's gonna end up beating me somehow because I'd have no way of reading him because he has no idea of sort of moves that would be. It's like if he's gonna make this bet at this time, oh, this means this usually, but not with this person who's brand new.
no, that's cool. That's quite an interesting point. That inexperience is something that's harder to predict for.
Wodar said, "Me and Very like doing pathing lowlights for stuff that spies have no reason to do."
Yeah,
After he said, "Well, it's not
Siegeman
always like that." Yep.
Siegeman does that sometimes as well of just picking out lowlights for things that he thinks his opponent wouldn't want to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, like that. that'll get interesting once we have have you heard of this new feature that's going to be added called recommendations?
Recommendations. I've heard of a few. I can't. Is that does he like you where you basically give the party member a reason to go to the bookshelf?
So the idea is like this is my understanding of how it's going to be implemented. In like conversation circles, you can walk in to a group of people talking and recommend for them to go and check out the last thing you were at. So if you like went to books and then come to conversation, you can like recommend the bookshelf and then like as many of the people who can fit there like go over to the bookshelf.
Ah, that would be interesting. That I can't wait to see these some of these new things.
Hmm. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what sort of uh, ramifications stuff like that or having having character specific behaviors will have. Like I'm wondering if it'll be like uh, the change from something like straight poker to Texas Hold'em, where it just like becomes way more engaging when you have these like little changes to the rules.
Yeah, and like what was it where you can have a security guard or something go and interrogate? I think isn't it called interrogate?
Yeah, yeah. So the sniper can tell the security guard to interrogate specific people.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting.
Then there'll be questions of implementation details of that. Where like, uh, is that something that the sniper then has to divert attention to of like what the person said? So now um, that's a risk for them to use to interrogate somebody because it might be like diverting a lot of attention. And the spy can like obviously see that the security guard's doing that and like go do something completely different while that's happening.
Yeah, yeah. There'd be a lot of interesting little things going on there. Like, oh, it's a distraction. He's going there. I'm gonna go over here, or I'm gonna stay here and try and seem less suspicious.
Hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It's it's like the analog to that in my mind
I wonder
is
if the security guard. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
no, please you talk. This is meant to be an interview with you, and I'm worried I'm saying too much stuff. So you go.
Oh no, not at all. I was just interested in. I was just wondering. I wonder if the security guard's gonna be walking around, or if he'll just be like,
Yeah.
just standing there by like the door or something.
Well, like
Because then there might be able to be some tells within that.
hmm. Yeah, well, that's something that Chris is gonna try and do. We still don't know if it'll work. Of having the security guard be a playable character, so then you can't trust the security guard of what information he feeds back.
Yeah, and so you get like a little message, go interrogate this guy.
Hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a problem that Chris hasn't run into yet, but that is a challenge of like Spy Party compared to something like poker. Like card games are really flexible. Like the fact that you can have poker with two people or 10, and it just sort of scales naturally is kind of
Yeah,
it like that's nice. Whereas Spy Party, we still have no idea of like it'll work with three people or four people, and like what the effect of adding the security guard as a playable character will have.
I think it'd be interesting to have like they kind of have in Gary's mod, like Terrace Town or something, where there are innocents and then there is the suspect. You know, I think
Oh,
it'd be interesting if you had like multiple like innocent players inside the game working with the spy or against the spy.
what so it's like making every character in the room a playable character.
Yeah, or maybe not all of them, but making it so that there's a few playable characters. But that I think that could maybe get into a problem because then the AI, you probably notice who wasn't AI pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, like that to me, like gambling and bluffing are sort of the heart of poker. It feels like the heart of Spy Party to me is telling apart a person from an AI, like to me at least.
Ah, yeah,
So
yeah. I think that's pretty much the heart of a spy party too. Yeah,
hmm. Yeah, so
I think it's to get away with it because I'm more on the spy side.
what you prefer playing Spy more or
Yeah, I'd like to specialize in it more, but I feel like I shouldn't specialize in either.
Yeah, there's only one player we know of who does specialize, and that's Sign T. He specializes in sniper.
Yeah, and he's really good. He actually has taught me quite a bit. He was like probably my second game in SpyParty, so I learned quite a bit off of him pretty quick.
I think he's looking to write like a manual or something on high-level sniper play.
Yeah. Oh,
Y-
he's definitely, and he's always willing to learn too, which is I think is neat, even from newer players.
Yeah, that's very important. Like, so you've played a lot of poker. Like, is it a steep learning curve once you get into taking it seriously? Like, is there a lot of literature and stuff that you have to brush up on?
I would say mostly just there's a lot of literature out there nowadays, and there's a lot of information. There's streams I've noticed on Twitch actually that
Poker
play
streams.
online poker. Yeah. Um, there's a lot of information out there nowadays to learn. The learning curve is steep if you want to become like a professional and make a living doing it. But just to casually play it, it's easy. It's easiest to learn as chess or something, which I think that's something that's very different from Spy Party at the moment. Is Spy Party is really hard to pick up right off the bat. Like it's really hard to understand why you're getting shot or a lot of little things. I think there needs. I mean, it's gonna come eventually, but I'm on the bandwagon of needing a better tutorial.
Hmm. Yeah, and then there's the immediate barrier on top of that of like people who haven't played video games before and like learning how to move a character in a 3D space.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit there.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, it's an especially big challenge because you have that on top of the challenge of like for people who don't know how to move a character through a 3D space in a video game.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I figured my personal like belief on that is if excuse me, if they're playing Spy Party and they figured out how to get into the beta, I think they know somewhat what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're that interested in games. I mean, I think they somewhat know because I mean, it's not. I mean, it's easy, but it's not something you're just gonna jump onto unless you have a genuine interest into it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a fair point. It's something we'll eventually have to worry about once it's out of beta.
Yeah, once it's out of beta, it's gonna have to. I don't know. I think it'll end up being really good. I don't know. It's already really good. I mean, for as long as it's been in development and people are still playing it, says a lot.
Hmm. It hasn't been banned because yeah.
Yeah, right.
So that yeah. Ooh, would it be banned if it were played for money? Because it would be ruled as a game of chance.
I don't know. I don't think of Spy Party really as a game of chance though, because there's a lot of as a top level spy, you really have to know what you're doing.
Hmm. Right, but so is poker. But because it contains chance, it was banned from online play.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it
Yeah,
would be
I mean,
because
yeah,
I mean
that's
it's
all like in a hypothetical situation where Spy Party was played for money, and it kind of feels like it doesn't work as a gambling game.
yeah. I think I really believe Spy Party could eventually be top level esport. I mean, if nothing kinks for as far as animation, I think the animation glitches that happen and a lot of that I think is a little bit too extreme personally.
What stuff like putting statues down?
Well, I wouldn't. Okay, it's probably not the statues. It's more of pathing. I guess that would be the correct
Yeah, that's it
word terminology.
yeah it it's it's definitely something that's hard to emulate, and that's a problem for mid-level play. But I think for high level players, it's like okay. Like it doesn't break the game. But you're right, it's certainly an accessibility problem.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to mostly get at. Is it's just hard to get into the game, especially now, early beta anyway.
Mm,
Because you jump in, there's only 3 or 4 people, and most of them will have a couple hundred wins or a couple thousand wins.
Yes. I mean that
Or
that
no wins, in which case you really aren't going to learn much. Or
yeah.
actually, you will learn a lot then because you'll be able to pick up everything. But
Mm. No, that's something that's interesting with us like trying to tie these two games together of poker and spy parties that um poker's something that when it came about had this long history of card games to build on top of. And so it feels kind of different when you're making a video game. It's kind of like out of the blue and people have to like learn this completely alien thing.
oh, really?
Well, I
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
would you agree with that, or do you think that's bupkis and that like no, like if you've played Spy Party, it like relates to lots of other video games.
Um, I think if you play Spy Party, it somewhat relates to other games slightly in mechanics, but in other ways, like actually, I don't even know. I almost say it doesn't relate at all to other games. Just it's just so different because it's not about getting and it's not about really getting the kill. I mean, it is about getting the kill, but it's more about making a correct decision given a whole bunch of different sorts of information.
Right, it's like a hand-eye coordination challenge, like a first-person shooter would be.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a slight simulation there on the spy side, but on sniper side, it's more of like a try. It's like a where's Waldo? That's the closest game I can think to compare the spy side to.
So you're saying if you bring up your kid playing, or sorry, reading Where's Wally books, he'll be a really good sniper?
I think he'll be able to look. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I said it.
So everyone listening, get your kids started now reading Where's Wally, and they will destroy the competition when they're 10 or whatever, and start playing Spy Party. Pro tip there.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm. Yeah. Chris posted something interesting in the forums a while. I think it was just the other day. Some science report that came out saying AI researchers have managed to build an AI that can play essentially perfect poker. Did you read about that?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I read what you get sent to me. That is very interesting how that ends up working out. It is on limit poker, which I think is a big reason why it ends up working
Yeah.
because there's too much variability and no limit. But that is very interesting that they actually figured out a way to beat it because I didn't even think that was possible.
Of solving poker. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry, I got mistracked there.
Oh, sorry. No, I heard someone talking in the background, so I thought maybe something was happening. Still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. My mic is super powerful, so I was trying to not ruin that.
No problem. Um,
I don't want to ruin it with my grandma talking in the background.
that's cool. But yeah. So it's a weird thing. This idea of a game about like intuition and bluffing being something that a computer can solve. Like it feels like a strange thing.
Yeah, it really does. Like chess, I never thought that would be possible either. It's very interesting.
Hmm. Um,
It's interesting with chess that they beat it. What I think is interesting is the fact that they've figured out how to beat chess using a computer, and yet it's still a game that's played for money, and they're still top masters. It's that's what I think is kind of neat.
yeah. Well, it's kind of nice this idea that okay, even though we kind of like that that's sort of one of the nice things about playing a competitive game is this idea that like oh you can have like truly win. There's like always a way to get better or something, and then you like build a computer that just like has optimal play. It's like oh, but even despite that, like it doesn't stop the game existing. Like it's still like it's still something that has genuine competition to it, even though it's like solved, quote unquote.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can make a computer play uh, StarCraft probably perfectly a lot easier than you could have made it beat poker.
Yeah,
And StarCraft is something that's played I mean, that's a huge esport over in Asian area
Mm. And
in Korea and such.
yeah, yeah. You're certainly right. It would be easier to do it for something like StarCraft because there's like uh, I don't know, like do you think it's like easier to make a right decision in something like StarCraft than in poker? Have you played both games?
Yeah, because I think so if for a mid to lower level person, just based on the fact that um you don't know what's going to come next.
In poker.
Yeah, and in like so you don't know if the decision you're making is necessarily the right one. You just know it's statistically it's the better of the decisions. But I feel in StarCraft you'd be able to like know that you building this base is the right decision at this time. But I'm not necessarily. I can't really talk too much about StarCraft. I just use that as an example.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Um, yeah, so like, do you think it's possible then that if AI researchers like decided to work on this kooky little game, someone could solve Spy Party?
Maybe. I
Maybe?
think that may be wasted their time.
Aw,
Well, because I mean they're playing a spy. I mean if you're a computer, you are the AI. I don't really think he'd be able to mess up as an AI.
huh,
I
I
don't
hadn't thought
know.
about
That's
that.
just my opinion.
No, but like that's a good point. It's kind of so obvious I hadn't considered that is that it kind of circumvents the whole um,
And as
challenge
a
of
sniper
making an
too,
AI
the same
solve.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And on the sniper side, you make one little hiccup, and the computer program will instantly see that the after running 1,000 million different runs of Spy Party, how a spy is supposed to act,
Mm.
or how a spy or how an AI would act. I mean to say.
Well, it's oh no, like the real challenge there is actually a very interesting uh, AI problem, which is perception, like getting a computer to read a scene, because that's like what's cool about sniper play is that it sort of takes advantage of the way that human perception works, and that it like focuses on specific things, and shifting attention is a like resource that it takes you time to think about something else. So that maybe would be a like interesting AI challenge of like how do you get a computer to emulate the way people perceive stuff happening.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure.
It's probably, unfortunately, too big of a challenge for like one programmer to solve. Unfortunately for Chris. So I don't know. Like I don't think we'll have like a good practice AI opponent for Sniper. I don't think that's possible, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that'd be hard. It'd be hard to program in mistake because it would be a mistake you could probably definitely I don't know because
Yeah,
he'd have to put in a certain chance for this mistake to happen, and then yeah,
yeah. Well, like I don't know.
you
Maybe it's something that's feasible for like building a rough estimation of a person, but to like actually have it be a computer that is perceiving the space as a human would, like what that would even mean is probably not doable.
you could almost just because it's so somebody's playing through a tutorial, you could almost just make it um something as simple as like coughing or putting statues down wrong,
Oh yeah.
and then you'd see enough. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only way I can think of how it may work.
Yeah, like rough stuff that gives you an idea of like, okay, the computer will see the really egregious stuff, but it won't see small stuff. But
Yeah, if you move like this, oh, they're gonna cough. I better not do that when I'm playing.
but even then, like the challenge is that it has to be like relative to like where the frame of the screen is, because like you can cough, and if the sniper's like not looking and then they come around, it's like a challenge for them to figure out who it could have been.
Yeah,
Mm. I'm,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm really curious now, like uh, how that sort of idea of like uh, the sniper's challenge of being able to perceive the room, how that can relate to poker. Like, have you played much uh non-online poker, like poker with with groups of people in a room where you're having to look at each other?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like, how big of an importance does physically reading your opponent play when you're playing in a room?
Well, it can benefit you and it could hurt you. It really just depends on your ability to perceive the other opponent. Like they always say, it's a game of life. So, I guess the better you are at life, the better you are at poker and perceiving people. But whenever, like I noticed, whenever you play more online, it's a lot more statistical
Yeah.
thinking than what the other person's thinking, really, or like what their facial expression is, or they're fidgeting, or oh, they're starting to sweat, or
Mm. Yeah. That's the poker version of a tell.
yeah.
Is it
And that's what I'm interested to see. What's that?
Oh no, sorry, you go.
Oh, I think it'd be interested in relation to like esports, having players being able to talk to each other or not. I think because I personally think it would be interesting to let them talk to each other, and it would be much more of a it'd be a lot more viewable by people instead of just two quiet people staring there. But if they're trying to get into each other's heads, I think that would make for good entertainment, and it would change the game. I think too.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, the like way to play SpyParty is with two computers that are facing each other, so you can look at the other person.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen what is it? Node. I think that's their YouTube channel. And they did a couple games like that where they were basically just staring at each other, talking to each other, and I thought that it looked a lot of fun. They actually did a um airsoft game of Spy
Oh yeah, I
Party
saw
where they
Chris
had a
posting it.
sniper across the room. Yeah, that was really cool. I really want to do that. If I had people around that would do it, that'd be awesome. If you live around Iowa, hit me up.
Anyone in Iowa, please contact Freak.
Airsoft Spy Party. Woo!
Sounds like a good idea. But yeah, it's uh the the other challenge I imagine then, if you're playing in a room trying to like judge people's tells playing poker, is hiding your own, like your own
What
little
was that?
tip.
Sorry.
Oh, because I haven't played much like poker in rooms with other people around a table. Uh, the other challenge that
Yeah.
comes to mind is hiding your own tells, hiding what you're doing physically that gives you away.
Oh yeah, that's where you really have to focus on breathing, and I have an issue with that. I get really excited, and like if I win a hand, I'm the person that's like yeah, and screaming and yelling, and people don't like that. But that benefits me sometimes because then people want to bet into me more and take me out, which
Mm.
sometimes helps.
Yeah, it almost seems like that could be an advantage in like getting them a little frustrated and off their game by being obnoxious.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I think would be fun with an esport. Is that's I think that'd be neat.
Mm. Yeah, and it like
I think we should definitely be able to chat. I think there needs to be a chat functionality when they throw it up on Xbox. There definitely needs to be chat, voice chat.
I mean, yeah, that'll be I don't know. I guess like the details of that you want to be careful with. Of like we've talked before on the show of how like want it to be a welcoming community, and so there still has to be the potential for people to say I don't want to talk to this person if they're um, offending them or or such.
Yeah, absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. And that is, I mean, that's a big reason why I'm playing indie games as much as I am now, and the reason why I found Spy Party is because I was just burnt out at the mainstream thing because online it's just not fun anymore. It's just a bunch of little kids calling each other cocksuckers.
Oh, it's a shame. Like have you played many of these like competitive shooter games? Like
Oh yeah, Halo, Call of Duty.
okay.
Played. I tried really hard to go professional in Halo, but that didn't work out.
Oh really? So you were like very very good, would you say?
Used to be very, very good. I haven't played those games in years. I felt burned by the whole all those AAA titles. They just kept getting worse and more people started playing. It was just like this isn't how it should work.
Oh, it's interesting. That I mean, sad, interesting, but it interested me to hear that you got
Yeah.
burnt out by.
Do you play many first person shooters or anything?
I mean, when I was younger, I played a bit, but I got burnt out much faster. Just of it not feeling like something
Yeah.
that was interesting to me, or like, um, I mean, I don't know, like, can you see some of the stuff you found interesting in poker in shooting games? Do you think?
Not really.
No?
Shooting games, it was more just straight up hand-eye coordination. I mean, there was there's strategy involved, but even that's really not too poker related, I don't think.
Okay. The,
Um,
there wasn't too much of like predicting where somebody was going to move based on their previous habits.
I mean, somewhat. I mean, if you're playing a team you know, or you're a veteran player just playing with random players, and this is a spot they usually like to go. I mean, there's stuff like that, but nothing concrete.
Okay, that's interesting.
Nothing that you could have as a rule of thumb, really. It could always get you through.
Hmm. Hmm. Whereas that sort of stuff is much more central in poker and Spy Party.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so like, was it then uh, partially that the hand-eye coordination challenge wasn't as interesting to you as that, or was it more the people calling you a cocksucker turned you off?
It was pretty much 100% the community
Okay, that's interesting.
because I still love shooters. I still feel I do good at them, but it's I'm really a competitive player and I like to play competitively. And whenever you're playing a team game, I want everyone on my team to be on the somewhat of the same wavelength, at least trying to call things out and be a team player, but usually they're not.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it's like if you're going to spend a lot of time doing something, you'd like it to be a pleasant environment.
Yeah, and the other thing is a lot of the top players aren't as open as they are like in Spy Party to give out their secrets, the things that are going to send them all the way. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that's mostly due to the fact that the game's early. Who knows what's going to happen once the game gets out there and these top players are the top players. Maybe they won't want to give out this information so easily.
Hmm. Yeah,
Be
it kind of
interesting to see what happens at that point.
it kind of marks us all as terrible spies and that we're bad at actually hiding information.
Yeah.
Like, man, we'd be terrible real world spies for telling everyone everything. Like, oh man, it was great how I figured this thing out. You guys should all do this. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that a lot of the top player shooters just shoot you and don't let you run around
Wait,
because
so
that's something you're not going to learn unless they just what what?
no, no. I was gonna ask. Since I'm like continually trying to force this analog between Spy Party and poker, like, is that something people do in poker, where like after playing they'll like fill you in on how they got you out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of mixed there too, but for the most part, all every time I've played poker after it like right after the hand, you're telling the player what happened. Julie,
Okay, that now
I
that
think the community within poker is a lot better than like the comparison to first person shooters.
hmm. But that's interesting what you said just there, that immediately after the hand they'll want to tell you why they did what they did, because that to me feels like even if we didn't have a good community, I think people in Spy Party would still want to share information after rounds because it's this sort of
Oh
um,
yeah, I mean, there's the bragging points to it, like
yeah,
especially on spy side, like, oh, I did this and this and this, and you want to tell the other player, or sniper, it's the same thing. Oh, I caught you doing this,
yeah,
even
you
if they, I don't know, I think it's bragging rights.
yeah, but like uh it's that there's something about information being hidden and then it being opened where you want to like explain what you were thinking.
Yeah,
And so that's interesting to me that that happens in poker as well, that people like want to talk about why they did what they did.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep the community going. You got to keep people learning and playing. People are just gonna. I mean, that's I think why players in Spy Party keep teaching because they want people to stick around
Hmm. Yeah, they want
and get
interesting
better,
games to
and
be
then
had.
you have somebody to play against. Yeah, more. That's exactly. You have more interesting games, and you're not just taking money
Hmm. Yeah, it's sort of where
or you know what I mean, taking wins.
yeah. Not literal money until we figure out a variant of Spy Party where you can gamble and strip.
Oh, the second this game comes out, I'll be
Yeah,
finding friends to gamble against. I'm sure.
but it is tricky to do gambling in Spy Party because like if you're a good player, you can like I don't know perhaps it it'd be tricky, right? Because you can't have spectator gambling because they can just divide the screen and then figure out who the spy is. So it'd have to be gambling for the two players.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. You could maybe have spectator gambling, but it would have to be prior to the game.
Right, but then that gets back to the point we were making before that for experienced players, it's kind of a dice roll, the character selection.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Hmm. I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be uh, the analog of like going from straight poker to Texas Hold'em, where it like went way further in the gambling direction. Maybe once we have character dossiers where each character will have different personality traits, there'll be like lots of strategy to that, and people will start placing bets on who they think the spy will select. Then I don't know, maybe.
Ah, personality traits. That would be interesting for sure. That would be really interesting. Has he talked about going that route?
Yeah, he's like for, for, first thing he's going to try is the recommendations because that's more of a spy buff. The dossiers is like a really complicated thing, and it feels like it might be more of a sniper buff. So that's going to be left for a
Yeah.
while.
Ah, yeah. No, that'd be very interesting to see come what will happen with that.
Mm. Yeah, do so that's but before we wrap up, I'm just like trying to find more things about poker that might relate to spy punting and get your professional opinion. Is there much like player style in poker at the high levels?
Player style. Is
Yeah,
that what
like
you said?
people playing particular ways based on uh, like
Yeah,
strategies
there's
they think are
definitely.
better.
There's a lot of different styles. I remember reading a book. I think it was maybe Phil Doyle. I may be completely wrong, but he had different um he had different classifications. Like an elephant is somebody who is just constantly throwing chips, doesn't stop throwing chips out. You know, like a mouse is just gonna throw a lot of chips out there, crazy like, and not care. An eagle's just gonna take your chips. You know, I mean, there's definitely different styles as far as this person's gonna be super hyper aggressive. This person's gonna be really passive and just wait for the hands that they can win with.
Hmm,
And usually players learn that. Like all the friends I play with, I generally know how they like to play. So it changes how I go about how I'm gonna make my strategy.
okay. And then do they change in response to how you change?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I mean, it depends on like the level of the player, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that point you brought up that a common variable is how aggressive a person is. That feels very analogous to Spy Party because that's something we talk about all the time. Is uh like new players tend to be not aggressive enough as Spy, and they'll run out of time.
Yes, I've had that issue a lot myself.
Hmm.
Playing, especially higher level players, because you just know they're gonna catch you on a pathing error. So it just scares me, especially on smaller maps
Hmm.
like Balcony and such. Like it's terrifying playing a high level player on that stuff.
But then as we were talking about before with like players like Drawn being able to catch people out for pathing, playing passive is actually really dangerous because the more time you give to a high level player, the more definitive they'll be in who the spy is. So it can be like really dangerous to play too passively.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had that told to me a couple times too. Is I'm just uh not going fast enough. Like I'm just letting time run out.
Is passiveness dangerous in poker? Like, is it bad to be too reticent? Hello?
Actually, I would say sorry. I was hitting the wrong button to push stop. Um, actually, players in poker, I would say, I need to be a lot more aggressive too. There's a lot of different styles, but usually the aggressive players come out with more because they're getting their chips in there more often. But it can also be really detrimental to the player because then if they do it too soon or they don't know what they're doing or the best times to put their chips in, they can lose pretty quickly.
And
So an aggressive player really needs to win like fast.
mm, yeah, that almost sounds analogous to the idea of rushing in Spy Party. That uh, if you decide to play aggressively, you're kind of locked into that because if you're giving the sniper information early on and then slow playing for the rest of the round, then you're going to get found out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very easily. They will always catch you.
Mm. Which is and that that's something that's kind of fun to do against newer snipers because the thing you get taught there is patience of like, look, don't shoot for the first thing you see. You got to like wait until you feel confident enough. So then in response to that, you like rush as the spy and punish them for being patient.
You're right. Yeah. I've had higher level people just hide. I actually had somebody on high res hide and get away with it. Like I completely forgot they were in the party. They even had they even had Toby come and give them a drink. Like it was that bad. It's on like the left of the screen where there's a little bit of shades there. Like there's a little bit of spot there you can get into, and if you're me, you don't see it.
Oh, that's hilarious. So what, like you just didn't see that person for the whole party?
No, I didn't see it. Like I saw him at first, and I knew he was around, but then I just stopped because I was waiting for some. I was waiting for hardtails. Basically, I was waiting for a purloin or something like or statue swap or something like that, but nothing happened. And time ran out, and then like watch my view, and I instantly saw it, and I instantly felt dead inside.
Wait, so they still managed to do the hardtails?
They actually, I think time ran out,
Oh, okay, so they
but it was
they lost.
still they lost, but it was still pretty embarrassing.
Well, no, like I don't think that that's the case because like Spy Party sometimes gets called a stealth game because it's about hiding, but in plain sight. And like that's sort of the thing is that
Yeah.
um, as the spy, you're brokering how much suspicion you're going to give to the sniper. So if you're like, I don't think it's actually that hard to like not get seen by the sniper. It's just you're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I mean like
It's funny.
yeah,
It's a
it's
funny
cute
story for
as a thing
later,
to do,
though. Yeah,
but
it was real cute.
yeah, but but like they know as well as you do that it's like kind of a pointless thing to do. Like you need to be giving the sniper information.
Yeah.
Um, so like in poker, the analog that comes to mind, and tell me if I'm wrong, is um, like do you in betting are you revealing information? Do you think in like raising or folding? Does it like give your opponent information about what cards you might have?
Um, somewhat. I mean, before the flop, whenever you just have your two cards and there's nothing laid out to play off of, you're giving some information. You're telling the other person if you bet a high amount. I mean, it's all relative to the amount you're betting, but you're telling them you have something. that you want to see come forth. But then after the flop, and let's say there's a chance for a flush, which is basically four of the, or you need to get five of the same suit, and you see maybe two of the same suit cards on the board, you'll know if they bet at that point. Still, you have at least a good idea that they may be going for that flush,
Right.
and you can base your strategy based on that.
Okay, but it's not as much of a concern as in Spy Party, where like everything you do is risking giving the sniper information.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're sitting there heads up or sitting in a room with somebody, basically everything, if you're playing against a higher level player, everything you're doing is giving information. I mean,
Okay,
the way your posture is everything.
right. It's just like less overt than in Spy Party.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't know. Like, do you think that's a good place to call it? Is there anything else you want to say about poker?
No, I think that seems like a good place to call it.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks very much for taking part in this conversation. I hope it wasn't too awkward.
No, not at all. It's my first time doing anything like this other than my stream. I just now started streaming, and I've been trying to talk a lot, and it's been very hard for me to do that, but I'm getting better at it, and I hope to do more podcasts like this myself. I want to start a gaming podcast for indie games, just through what's going on in indie world.
Okay.
Hopefully
Cool.
soon, within like the next month, I hope to have that. But no, this was fun, man. I really appreciate the fact that you even let me come on.
Yeah. No problem. Do you want to give a shout out to what your stream is in case people want to look it up?
Yeah, my stream is twitch.com/freak. It's fr3ak222 because I suck at thinking forward. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's fr3ak222 on Twitch.
Wait, 2-2 or 222?
222, three twos.
Three twos. So the three in the freak is an indication of how many twos there are.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was going for.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking part, and we'll talk to everyone next week.